Design Commission. I'll start over. We'll call the City of Olivet's Planning Community Design Commission for July 21st, 2022 to order. Jody, our secretary, I know you don't have the list, so if you'd like, I'd be happy to call roll for you.
That would be awesome, Rob. Thank you.
Fantastic. Robert Jergiel is present. Carol Wagner is absent. Jody Rich.
Here,
Richard Brophy is absent. Brian Lewis is absent. Daniel Rosenberg.
Present.
Tim Spiegelglass.
Present.
All right. Well, great. Thanks, guys, for being patient and being here. Sorry for any inconvenience, but we're going to try to move this along as fast as we can as now that we're in session. So just to go over a little bit of some ground rules and everything, we do have a comment period for general comments. So these are for items that are not on the agenda. So if you have that, we will give you time to come up in front of the podium and speak your piece, if you will. And we do ask you limit comments to no more than 3 minutes, just to be respectful for everybody's time and to make sure we can get everybody's opinion heard. When we go through the agenda items, we will have staff reports that will go on first, and then there'll be some discussions with commission members among staff. And then we will then also ask the petitioner to come up in front of the board and ask questions and go back and forth. After that, we will then ask for general comments on those specific agenda items. And once again, if there's a general comment, we do ask that that's be limited to no more than 3 minutes. If there is a person that's in the via Zoom that wants to make a comment, we do ask you to raise your hand. Should be an icon at the bottom of the screen. Is that right, Carlos?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that being said, Carlos, did I miss anything?
No, I think you got everything covered, Chairman.
Okay, good. So let's move on to public comments. Do we have any public comments for any items that are not on the agenda? Seeing none in the audience here, do we have anything in, online via Zoom? I'll give it 30 seconds. Yeah, I think we can go, right?
All right.
Okay, we'll move on. No public comments tonight. We'll move on to consent items. Item A, this is 46 Stony Side Lane. Carlos, is this on for tonight?
Chairman, the petitioner requested to defer the petition to the next scheduled meeting. They're having conversations with the homeowners association that
Good.
may require some changes between the HOA and the petitioner, not
Okay.
impact of the city. So they requested it could be moved to the August 4th meeting.
Good. Okay, that being said, we'll move on to old business, item number 5. And this is item 5A, which is 9680 Olive Boulevard, the BP Amico. Carlos?
Okay, Chairman, this was in our on our agenda on June 2nd when it was introduced. It was deferred, subject to a couple of items on the staff report that were requested to be addressed. Two significant ones were a traffic assessment. There was 3 points of concerns that were identified by the commission that they wanted to get some additional information. In that process too, we also received a letter providing an analysis of the business type from Dr. Tomadson, who's with Washington University School of Economics. And he is in attendance too, but he provided a brief overview of the type of business services, which right now the majority of this building consists of mechanic bays and the small, I'll use the term mom and pop type of establishments, and the current market disadvantages that they face just trying to operate solely a mechanic bay and service station. And Also did an analysis comparing the expansion of the convenience store with the generation of additional business occupants that would be there, and noted that it would be minimal as compared, given that there were other opportunities throughout the corridor, the square footage, and some of the limitations that this building and the site have within itself. I would note that we always look at what is a personal opinion, what's a professional opinion. I look at that as a professional report that was provided in there, being that it was an analysis conducted by a gentleman well experienced and versed in economics, and I think he provided quite a bit of information on the perspective of his analysis to back that up. The other one was the traffic assessment that was provided by the Lockmuir Group. The city of Olivet's used the Lockmuir Group for various traffic analysis within the Olive Corridor. Matter of fact, they prepared the master plan for the Olive Boulevard corridor that we have filed and adopted and currently practice in its enforcement, which furthers the goals and objectives of the city's 2006 comprehensive plan. That analysis looked at a couple of things. One is, were there going to be additional trip generations on this site generated by the change? And looking at the traditional engineering handbook, which provides projected increases both in and out on traffic. Given the square footage that's being considered here and what's existing, what would be converted, found that it would be very minimal. That this site would generate significant amount of traffic to have an impact on what the existing conditions are. Noting that the existing conditions are complex given the location, the size of the site, the intersection, and everything around, its area outside of its zone of influence. That being said, one of the staff was concerned about traffic movement into the site. Given the current design of the intersection, not within the site itself, and this lot in there, and they do have a representative here that probably can address it more specifically than I could. But again, I think the overall view was that the status quo would be maintained, and I think it'd be difficult to look at it changing that traffic and its movement along that state highway and Old Bonham Road. Which is a residential collector, primary residential collector for the city of Olivet. That when you look at those volumes, what would happen here regardless would be, wouldn't have an impact to significantly change what is the current status of that is. And again, they can go through that a little bit more deeper in regards to what they actually saw. The other thing we had requested to take a look at is the opportunity to close the westernmost apron on Olive. Right now on Olive, there are two aprons, both of them at the edge of the site, but one of them really near the intersection itself. Two things that we wanted to look. One is that staff, from our end, our analysis from the planning department was that it's too close to the interchange. Two, it's inconsistent with our goals and objectives from the comprehensive plan, and also with the objectives that we're trying to manage the corridor along Olive and trying to consolidate aprons and create easements and cross-access opportunities. But we were concerned that if closing that, if it would have a negative impact within the site itself. And I think they took a cursory look at that and overall did support closing the western most intersection. That being said, this is a tough site. There really isn't any additional value for this site to be acquired by any of the adjacent properties because they're pretty well built out in there. The form of business, again, reading the Mr. Tomatson's report is struggling and will continue to struggle as a mechanic only operations. A convenience store will give it an additional opportunity. It is staff's opinion that does pose a change in the actual use that was authorized in the special permit, and therefore recommend that it go to the city council to be readopted and to reflect the special permit to what exactly is being proposed. And it's only about a 720 square foot retail area, the rest being the operation storage, bathrooms, and some office space in there. There are several nonconformities with this site. This is the type of site that we see consistently along the corridor that we've been working hard to try to find ways to either have consolidated or integrate with its surrounding neighbors. This one's difficult to do. You have a 6-story building on the east side of the property line, and then you have a parking garage on the south side of the property line, state highway in the north, and of course, major residential collector on the west. There are no other opportunities to try to integrate this site with the surrounding developments, or even to provide cross-access opportunities. But it is a change, and it is our goal to further the city's comprehensive plan and the goals and objectives. And those are, again, focusing on our community identity, improving the pedestrian experience, and improving traffic management along the corridor, and again, supporting, promoting economic development or reinvestment in properties within all of that. We think this site can, but we also know it would be with a cost, and a cost that would be shouldered by a smaller site. Therefore, we think we would like to work with the applicant, or encourage the commission to consider working with the applicant to missing the slide, and I apologize if we got missed. Work with the applicant, and you'll see in our staff report recommendation of trying to phase in some of these improvements. And I'm gonna bear with me 1 second. I apologize those that are
I have a
online.
copy of it. If you want me to
Okay.
give it to him.
Yeah, I have a paper copy, but I wanted to kind of put it up also. Appreciate it. Thank you, Chairman. So bear with me again. This kind of illustrates the recommended improvements that would be incorporated into any amendment to the special permit. And these further the goals and objectives of the city's comprehensive plan. One is to, of course, to close off the westernmost entry on Olive. And we would like to work with the petitioner to provide a temporary closure, at least for the first full year of occupancy. So at occupancy, we would ask them to come up with a temporary solution, like a jersey barrier or concrete barrier to close off that in there. But after 12 months of occupancy, that a permanent sidewalk and curb be put in place in there. Those are required to go through the Missouri Department of Transportation, and will require permits from them. Within the first 6 months after occupancy, that they remove the pole sign and install a new monument sign. And this has been about the discussion we've had about the corner here, and about our ordinance under chapter 428 and our comprehensive plan of creating a gateway entry. And there, this is nothing new. And there, it's part of the 2006 comprehensive plan. It's identified and illustrated in the traffic management plan as opportunity areas, and it's codified under chapter 428 for those improvements. And then also provide direct sidewalk access to the facility, one from Old Bonham that runs along here in there, and maybe it's very busy on Olive and will be difficult, but one that is a pedestrian crossing through the traffic areas of the service stations. And it's not the ideal place. The ideal place is along here, outside of the lanes of traffic. But they have a tough site, and this might be the only way to place it. And therefore, we recommend that it be very well identified in there. So it's more of those type of panel markings as opposed to two cross hatches going across. And they're 12 months after occupancy to ensure that the full Olive entrance is closed per Missouri Department of Transportation requirements, and then within 18 months after occupancy, that the sidewalk and the corridor along Olive Boulevard be fully compliant with chapter 428. The petitioner does have representatives here, both their legal counsel and the traffic, the individual that conducted the traffic analysis along with Mr. Tomatson is here. So I'd be glad to answer any questions, and if not, Chairman, I'll bring it back to you.
I just have a couple questions, and it's the improvement, the widening of the building, sidewalk kind of around it.
Yes.
Will that, how much wider will that be? And will that be a problem with? you
It's
know,
gonna be difficult, but I need to get it ADA compliant. The code says it should be 8 feet. There's no way they can give us 8 feet along there. But if I can get anywhere between 36 to 48 inches, the city would be better off, and this would be more accessible, meet the accessibility requirements in there. The code also says that when you are at front entry doors into a public space, that there should be a broader sidewalk or opening. And at that point, we typically look for 8 to 16 feet. I don't think we can do it here. And I think that might be, again, under the parking ordinance. The commission has some flexibility to consider some leniency on some of the numeric requirements.
Are they planning on raising the floor in the old garage, or is that going to be?
It's a good
More on
question. I'll
pavement.
let the petitioner answer that.
Yeah.
So I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay. Okay. Any other commission members have any questions for Carlos? Seeing none at this time. So I think let's go ahead and hear from the petitioner.
Okay. All right, I'll have you guys come on up to the podium. Well, first things first, I think we, oh, go
If you
ahead.
could state your name and address for the
That's right.
record.
Yes.
That would be great. And
Yes.
Sir, if you could do that as well, and then yourself, and maybe if you could do that all at this point in time, then you don't have to do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Tom Applewhite and 7543 Harlan Walk in Afton, Missouri, 63123.
Thank you.
Zaim Reaz, 9233 lead singer, Brentwood.
Thank you.
Hi, Cheryl Sharp with Lock Me in the Group, and I live at 2 Talisman Way Drive in Florissant.
Thank you.
Before we get into too much, you asked a question that I'd like to get answered for you, since
Please.
you asked about the flooring. About the floor, the height, and actually Nazia was about to explain that. Nazia, can you come on up and you can just say your address,
Yes.
and then after that, you can even say what you're gonna do with the floor on the inside. That would be good.
Hi, and Nazia Afzal and 9233 Mitzinger Road, Brentwood 63144.
Thank you.
Inside we will paint the building, and on the floor we will resurface it. I mean, if it will be resurfaced, like maybe it will be high like 1 or 2 inch, and that will be it. I mean, we will not just raising the floor.
Right.
We will be making it nice and resurface.
Okay. So there's not going to, so it might not be a really good ability to have a sidewalk out in front that's more of a pavement, but maybe it could be something that could be done with paint.
Well, the goal of the sidewalk is to have some type of buffer obstacle for the wheel. It's something we can take a look at. And that's the complexity of trying to convert the bays into retail. It is going to require some creativity on their part. We'll take a look in there. I don't think one option would be to create a perimeter in there, but I don't think that would be very attractive. But that's an option they can consider.
What
They-
kind of perimeter? What do you mean?
Kind of like have a ledge or a bump.
Could be a trip hazard. then.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing I could think of would be some sort of, paint material, just like you would for the crosswalks,
Mhm.
bright color. I don't know. But
Yeah.
we'd have to see.
And
if
maybe,
that's
maybe
code
some different
compliant
pavement, some different finish
on the
outside of
outside.
paint.
Yeah. Like a
I
texture.
think paint is is from an enforcement perspective wouldn't be effective and it'd be a unnecessary use of the staff time. In there, but if they want to consider, some type of paver system. And do a saw cut, again, it's their designer. It's up to the architect on how they want to put that together.
Oh, go ahead, Mr. Rosenberg.
Yeah, so I mean, would bollards even be an option for something like that? Um, just thinking out loud here. Decorative or, something more traditional, but I mean, that would protect the sidewalk area. Throwing that out there as an option.
Maybe some large planters or something like that. That's the only thing I. can
Right.
think.
Those, yeah, and those would do the same thing for sure, but they might take up more floor space.
Yeah, and more of the, the driveway space that would interfere with the traffic
Right.
in the sites. Okay, well, I appreciate you guys answering that question right off the bat, but if you
Yeah.
want to walk us through maybe some of the, thoughts or ideas, especially in relation to Carlos's report, that'd be great.
Yes, absolutely. So one thing I wanted to bring up Cheryl Sharp for was just to discuss the idea with the signage. So I wanted to bring up the signage because as we discussed before, this business already, it has its cash flow issues. And so that's why I've been, doing this work pro bono. It's like Dr. Thomason wrote his report pro bono. And this is something that where the report itself, it originally was saying, hey, we have concerns over safety, we have concerns over traffic. So we got the traffic consultant. Ms. Sharp did a very honest job of the report. And, she said, hey, yeah, let's close that flap. That's a good idea. That protects the public. Especially given Dr. Thomason's report and her own analysis independently, shouldn't impact traffic, having this, this expansion of the C-store. The thing that concerns us with the sign is especially with these other changes being made, that is an outlay of cash. And from what I see, there's no other purpose other than aesthetics. And I understand that the city has its plan, but Dr. First of all, for Dr. Thompson, I will ask you to come up. Ms. Sharp, could you explain how the signage, if it impacts the traffic at all?
All right, so I mean, I assume it needs to be on the site. I mean, if it was between, where do you anticipate the signage being? Is it in like that northwest corner of the site?
They have a space.
Okay.
Bear with me one second.
I thought that was already discussed, that there
Yeah,
was going to be
so
a
did I.
sign before.
Correct. And it's in their landscape plan also. But they have an area right here,
Okay.
a grass area right here, a low monument sign would be below the vision triangle. And outside of that, the 30-foot standard triangle.
Okay, yeah, because that would have been my only concern is if it impeded sightlines, but I mean, if it was that far back, I don't necessarily see that being an issue with sightlines, so that would be my only concern.
Right, and I guess one thing I'm looking at here from talking to my clients is there's an issue with trying to get that done in 6 months' time, right? With having a sign done. That's a lot to ask the business. They already had to outlay thousands of this traffic consultant. The main point is it wouldn't impact traffic safety in the meantime to have this sign, be it a pole sign or another sign. It would just be, it's aesthetic. It's something that can wait. I mean, you could have that out to an 18-month period to make this more feasible for them. I believe that's discussed. So that. Well, you want to.
all Julie, we almost bankrupt. Did everything, and this is our living, and we need your help, please, we'll do whatever you will on daily basis, and we don't have, we put all start, with us, we can do something with it.
Right. No, I understand. I mean, Carlos, is that something that could be?
Yeah, I think the goal here is to create some type of collaborative approach. Normally, these things would be required at the time of part of the permitting in the process. We can look at, I'm throwing out the schedule. I'm not throwing out the conditions, but I am throwing out the schedule to work with the petitioners collaboratively. And if that is something that we move to a 12 or 18-month period, I have no support. This is a long-term investment for the community. This is, and I'm sure for them, we would want them to be a successful business, and we hope that there would be Olivet residents, for the long term, and that they invest in our community as well as they are in their property. And again, I'm open, and we can codify this in the special permit ordinance in there to ensure that the improvement gets done. But if no more time is needed, the goal here is, the city is committed to work with you to get this operating. This is a tough site. This is a tough site for the city of Olivet. I can't imagine or put myself in your shoes of how difficult this site is. But we know in here that the opportunities and the possibilities are difficult, given the improvement that was made around this site and the planning that was put together at that time, and carving out or turning its back on a little property like this. So I'm supportive, and again, we want to work with the applicants in there, but we also are, my role and responsibility is to ensure the codes are enforced, along with the goals and objectives of our comprehensive plan. I can't ignore those in there, but we can work on a timeline to get those.
And we agree with
So-
that, we want to work with you guys,
Oh, you want
Um,
to say your name and
My
address?
name is Kumar Zaman, and 9233 Litzingers Road. Yeah, we definitely want to work with you, and we have agreed with the monumental sign. We will make that. And then we will, city wants to close that, we can close. And actually, we have sent that proposal from the landscape company. So we will close that, put a green, belt there. So we are agreeing to that. We agree to everything, actually, what Mr. Trejo is saying, or the city is saying.
Good.
The only thing is just a little bit of timeline.
Oh, yeah,
And we will,
we can do that.
I definitely, if you,
I mean, if we could even, I don't know if it's possible, we push it out 24 months. I mean, it really helps with cash flow. This is something. I mean, if they're able to basically make the improvement, open the C-store, start getting the money.
For everything, or are you talking about for some stuff? Because
well, some stuff, yeah, we can do definitely some stuff.
Kind of
Yeah,
progressively, because it shows good faith, good
Yeah,
will,
yeah. definitely.
So if you want to take a look at kind of, Carlos, do you have a slide or anything that shows that kind of schedule? So maybe we can,
Yes, that's what I
discuss each
had.
of those?
Yeah, the
I'll bring back that up. Here we go. And
I
again,
can read
this
it
is
off.
put, pardon,
I could read it off.
it's up on the dais.
Oh, good. So look at the bottom right here, so where, actually, I'll show you.
Was it?
Yes, sir. Oh, yes, sir.
And the only thing I'll ask Cameron.
Speak loud.
There you go.
All
Yes, sir.
right, all right. So we're okay with bullet item number 1.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So then 6 months after occupancy, removal of the pole sign, new monument sign, and sidewalk access improvements for Old Bonham and
And
all.
that's one that I was talking through on cash flow. 18 months is what you really want, right? If we can do that, just from a cash flow standpoint.
18
out,
months.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then let's look at some other things. Is there anything you can do in 6 months? Low hanging fruit.
I think, and if I understood correctly, the main issue would be, well, one of the issues regarding the schedule is regarding that signage.
Yes, yes, it's fine,
But
we can do that.
but not necessarily, and bear with me 1 second. The sidewalk improvements. The sidewalk improvements that they can be done within the 6 months. After occupancy.
So they could do the sidewalk improvements within the 6.
So the sign and the monument sign either would get moved to that 18-month. Okay. Is that reasonable?
Very, yeah.
Just to set them up for success, I know there's doing the sidewalk
Visiting, yeah.
access improvements within 6 months. Is that something we could move?
And
as
we will
well?
do every single of them. We are not like saying, we will just, yes, thank you very much.
Well, and I just want to talk through timeframe.
So 6 months, the sidewalk improvement.
Yes, sir.
Is that real? Okay.
Okay, so then we're looking at, pole sign, the new monument sign moves to 18 months.
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay. 12 months, full closure of the
Yes.
western column. And then also the 18 months, it's like the streetscape and landscaping improvement.
yes, sir.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Agree with that.
And I know for them, getting a rapid approval for them to even just start expanding the C store to get the cash flow impact we're talking about.
Right.
It'll be important to get that cash flow.
Um, You start opening that up, at least. Something like that, that looks tasteful, we don't want it done, so it doesn't. Because the idea of that is just to have more safety.
Understood.
I have a question out here, is it related to this particular item?
You want to come up, Dr. Kamasi? I think he may have some wiser thoughts than I am, but like if aspect of this. So,
Rockfield to Manson, 809 Newcastle Drive, in Olivet. I would just say, by the way, I should clarify, I spoke at the last meeting on behalf of these people, and I was happy to write a letter. I actually don't have much of any relationship with them. In fact, I think they were surprised to find out who I was when I was sitting in that. So I just want to kind of say how I just wrote what I viewed as an objective report and kind of left it there. My sense from what I see here is that you have people who are trying to work with you. My concern is if you're going to start to say 6 months and they're running into cash flow problems, I don't know any business that's going to be able to go from basically bankrupt now in 6 months with the amount of demand that I would anticipate that they get, that they're able to do this in 6 months. I wonder if there might be a way to put in either revenue or profit or some other sort of trigger or traffic trigger or something, if you're gonna try to be as aggressive as 6 months. I just don't want to set them up for failure.
We
'cause I
don't
think
either.
there's, yeah, I
We
get
don't
that.
either.
And so I just was concerned with what they're negotiating, because I haven't seen too many other businesses that were able to turn things around so quickly. I didn't know that their lawyer is trying to argue for more time, but I would just say as a neutral but somewhat educated outsider, I also look at this and I'm concerned, like, I just don't think we want to push them into bankruptcy, and I would.
That's not the goal.
Yeah, no, I don't
We're-
mean it to be that you guys have that goal. I'm just trying to say,
Yes.
like, I'm a little worried that they're being too accommodating, so.
Right.
Maybe think about revenue triggers or give a little extra timing, or I understand the safety stuff too, and that stuff you'll have to balance out, but I just had the concern that there was a little too much being promised for economic viability, and I'll just leave it there.
Yeah.
I, given what that being said, again, he knows far more than I on the business. I would love to see like a first deadline of 12 months, just because it feels like 6 can be pretty fast. And I know you want to see the business succeed, and that's why I really think, hey, let's make that first deadline 12 months out. That's really, especially what I just heard there. I don't want to be hearing him being too, accommodating my clients here and potentially saying I'm in a bad place when I have an expert like that and giving that kind of a warning.
Right. Carlos, what do you think about that? Is there anything we can do with a mechanism of cash flow? I don't know how we can.
Yeah, I caution the commission on that, or that we defer and get some more analysis. Outside analysis done on that perspective. The 6 months regarding the placement of the sidewalks. The schedule's kind of identified on what the community priorities are. In there, safe pedestrian movement is something we've strived since 2006 to try to improve on the Olive Boulevard corridor and throughout our community.
Let me ask you a question, Carlos. With the city, if there was, God forbid, some sort of accident, some sort of issue that occurred, somebody gets hit, because we're delaying these requirements to be put in place, after the stores being put in operation, are we putting the city at any risk?
That's always a difficult one to answer. I mean, by statute, we are somewhat immune from that type of litigation unless we knowingly or I forgot what the term is, and you may know a little bit better.
Yeah, I personally, I mean, I can't give you legal advice as not your attorney, but
But,
it doesn't seem like it's not something.
But
We have some
But-
people with hands up online.
Oh, we do, okay. Good. Commission members, it's Tim. Tim, do you have any, what do you want to say?
I just wanted to talk about, have you guys gotten the cost to do all this work? Do you guys know what is in store for you 6 months, 12 months, 18 months from now?
Yes, we have the estimates for the repairs. And when we agreed to that, we had those economics in mind. I appreciate everybody's trying to help, and we do want that, the safety and all that. I think, we can agree to the 6 month mark, Yes, so I have the estimates from the free seller company and all the contractors in hand for the closures and updates and all that, and, we are a homeowner too, and we can use, and I have a home equity loan and all that we can use and we can mobilize. And I know in 6 months business probably will not be making much, but we know this is an investment, we can mobilize funds. So it's okay. I mean, thank you very much for concern, but whatever you negotiate is fine. timing-wise,
I think,
Chairman, and one of the things we can take a look at, and again, I mean, the goal here is to try to find an acceptable solution for all. And then I'm also responsible to explain between businesses, like why one gets one or one gets the other and all that. So I'm trying to make sure this is as equitable as possible. The other thing is that there could be, an asterisk in this approval that indicates that in the event that if there is a delay meeting one of these deadlines, the petitioner can come back to the commission and request at least a 3 month extension or 4 months extension in there. I'm hesitant to go the full 6, but I think the commission gets the idea of what I'm trying to portray. So there's an opportunity here because things happen. Who would have thought of COVID 2 years ago? So it could be a very unique situation, whether it's monetary or the state is going to be doing resurfacing of Olive Boulevard, and they're gonna, they're gonna pay for it. Wishful thinking, but something like that could happen that it may be worthwhile to say, hey, yeah, let's just hold off on it and see what happens. Is that reasonable?
yeah, I mean, it sounds reasonable, and I think, especially that asterisk you're talking about, and I think we were talking about with the signage, especially as you're saying, your priorities are the safety. That's something, as you hear from our traffic consultant, it doesn't impact anything. So it could be moved towards the end. Would be that increases the chance of success, makes it so cash flow is not as much a problem.
Okay, good, very good. Any other commission members have any thoughts or comments on this?
Yeah, I did have one question. So this, before construction begins, this will have to come back through the commission for the building permit. Correct? Or,
No, everything that happens within the shell itself is done administratively through the permitting process. So the commission, now you do have a layout, actually, let me back up here 1 second.
because I don't think we've seen plans for the interior fit out.
They were part of the original submittal back in July,
Okay.
and I'm not sure if that might have been when you were out. Bear with me 1 second here. Commissioner Rosenberg, I'm going to expand that. You should.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen these before. Yeah, and I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a code official here, but something about this floor plan makes me a little uneasy. Concerned about the existing restrooms for one.
Compliance.
Yeah. So, I mean, those were, and there could be other things too. I mean, there could be any number of things. But if that's going to be handled administratively, I guess.
Correct. And the process would be if there is something that impacts the interior that something in the interior that impacts the exterior, like they have to add or do a bump out, then we make a call whether it comes back to the commission. But if
Okay.
it's all within the shell itself, that will be
Okay.
reviewed administratively. And we've had the discussion regarding the bathrooms within
Okay.
the facility to make sure they take a look at that in there, and whether you could have, one bathroom internal, one bathroom outside. I know the square footage may fall under the threshold to have a unisex type of bathrooms facilities, but those won't get reviewed until they get more detailed in the building plans.
Perfect.
I know Carol had some concerns about the traffic plan. She's not here, and I was curious if you could kind of go through your report briefly, kind of high level, and really kind of talk about the flow of traffic within the development, and especially entrances, egresses,
Sure.
things like that. That would be helpful.
Sure, sounds good. So kind of going through the report first, we looked at the trip generation, and really it comes down to the number of fueling stations didn't change. And with the C-store this small, it was really based on fueling pumps. And so there really was no increase in traffic.
More added revenue per visit.
Right,
Of
yeah.
existing visits already.
Exactly. Trips are not driven by the size of this small of a C-store. So then we started looking at site access, and that one on having multiple access points on Olive Boulevard. That one on the west is extremely close to the intersection, and so we were really looking at, can it close down, and what impact that has on the circulation on site. And it is a pretty tight site. It would be kind of hard to maneuver if we were to limit some of the movements in or out of either the eastern access or the Old Bonham access point. And so with the Western Drive closed, we felt like we needed to keep full access at both of those entrances because of the maneuverability on site. It would be really hard for somebody who came in on Old Bonham to maneuver on site to go back west on Olive Boulevard. And the number of trips out here, it's really maybe a car a minute, either coming or going. It's about 60 trips. That means 30 in, 30 out in the morning peak hour, and about 80 trips or so in the PM peak hour. And that's based on ITE. We did not count the driveways out here as part of this. But based on our national standards, that's what that this size store would generate. And so we thought with that little amount of traffic, we would not necessarily have a big queue leaving the site. You know, it's probably only going to be about one car deep on the queuing. And so therefore, I didn't think that you would really block that that eastern entrance, for instance. You know, somebody coming out, you know, it does get a little tight on the site there. So, but if with just one car, you know, and not like 2 or 3 stacked up trying to get out, you can still get somebody coming in.
Okay.
So that's another reason why we felt like we needed to maintain the full access out on Olive Boulevard, especially if we close that western access. So we did look at trucks coming in and out, and we asked them how trucks, you know, maneuvered on site today to deliver the gas on site. And the response we got is that they come in off of Old Bonham, they deposit the fuel, and then they leave the eastern access there on Olive Boulevard. So that would not be changed. You know, they could still maintain, you know, that truck access throughout the site. So I think that was about it. So any other questions that you remember coming up on previous or?
There
current?
was some questions of whether it should be limited for, you know, right turn only
Mhm.
during rush hour, you know, something to that extent. You know.
Something like that, especially if you're going to allow it full, you know, other times of the day, beyond rush hour, you know, full access, that is really hard to enforce. I mean, and I don't think their driveway is wide enough to really get a pork chop to do a permanent one. I think that would be added cost if you were to try and put a physical barrier up to make it a right in, right out. Well, plus I said, you know, like, as I said, I really wanted to maintain the full access there. So, so trying to enforce that via signage only is really tough. So, I mean, we can, but with so little traffic coming out, I mean, it could be very well that, you know, most of their traffic is in the morning, you know, as people come, make a right in and then a right out to continue on towards 170 or something. So,
So it's not warranted at this point.
I don't think so.
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
I
Makes
mean,
sense.
there is a lot of traffic on Olive, but I don't think I would want to restrict the site because of that.
Do you think it would be would there be any benefit to cutting back that center island to kind of widen that east entrance at a future date?
Yes, I think there would be benefit to that. Mhm. But I don't think it's necessary at this time.
Okay, I get it.
Can you note that again, Chairman? I'm sorry, just to make sure it was on the,
Basically widening the eastern entrance by taking away or cutting back some of that, the existing center island. Center island, I should say, not island. Does that make sense? I can show
yes,
it. to you.
yes, I. Right where they had the curb.
Yeah. You know, kind of cut this back, so this is more. Yeah.
I think that could be helpful in the future if they would be able to make that adjustment, but I know that would be an extra cost at this time.
Right,
So,
right. And with the amount of traffic that
Mhm.
maybe is not required, but
Right.
if there is increased traffic or things like that,
mhm,
that could be a way to address it.
yes.
Any commission members have any questions for the traffic?
Cheryl, yes.
Sure, thank you. Okay, seeing none. I guess at this point, if we don't have any other further discussion, Carlos, did we address all the items that we wanted to discuss?
Yeah, the one thing I'll note, just, you know, for the commission to kind of go over is that schedule to make sure that everyone's in consensus with that, you know, where we're going with the next phase on here. And again, at the time of occupancy, that western entrance, that some type of temporary closure be provided when construction's done. Within a 6-month period, that the sidewalk access from the streets be provided. Within a 12-month period, that the full closure on Olive be completed. So no longer a temporary type of element or barrier being placed along there. And then within 18 months, the removal of the pole sign with the new monument sign and all the streetscape and landscaping be completed, with the commission to have the ability to consider an additional 3, but no more than 6 months extension upon request by the petitioner. Is that
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Does that sound good? Yeah. All right, any commission members have any questions or concerns about that kind of timeline?
Commissioner, is that 3 month going to be an additional bullet point put within that document and approval? That is what is going to be the conditional.
yes,
Is
it'd be
it-
codified in the
Okay,
special permit.
thank you very much for this particular item. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, I think at this point in time, if we don't have any more discussions on this, I'd like to just check, see if there's anybody in the audience that wishes to speak on this, or if there's anyone via Zoom that wishes to speak.
I don't see anybody raising their hands online. If anybody would like to speak regarding this petition item, if you can, there is one person in the attendee list. Just show your hand.
I don't see anybody in the audience here that has any more to add, so
All right. And I see no hands, Chairman.
how about we wait 30 seconds? Just in case?
Absolutely.
I think we have any comments, right?
No?
Okay, good. So do we have a suggested, or let me just ask the commission members if there's any other comments or discussion at this point in time? Otherwise, maybe Carlos, you could put together the recommended motion. It's not showing up on the screen here, so I'm not sure if it's showing up via Zoom.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, can I ask a quick question on this?
Absolutely, go ahead.
When they apply for their permit, is that gonna be all inclusive of everything that we've talked about tonight? And before they get approval, that everything's on a plan and it's ready to go for all these different changes that are gonna happen 6, 18, 12, 18 months? Or is they gonna go back for a permit every time that they wanna make a change?
I think it'll be part of the special permit that Carlos will have to issue for this, which falls under a kind of a little bit different than standard permits. Is that
Correct.
correct?
Correct. Should the commission choose to act on the petition tonight and consider the conditions that are outlined in the staff report as amended, they will be incorporated in an actual ordinance that would go before the city council. If that ordinance is adopted, it becomes law, and then we would work with the petitioner in that process. The first set of plans that the petitioner will be submitted will be primarily for the tenant finish, the interior improvements. After that, then they'll be submitting separate plans to MoDOT, probably for the removal of the existing apron, and then to Olivet down the line for the sidewalk landscaping type of improvements. Those would be separate from the building permit. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay, so we got a suggestion motion on the screen. Does anybody wish to make a motion? Okay, seeing nobody, how about, I can make my own motion, right, Carlos?
Well, you typically we prefer that the chairman not make the motions if possible, though we are shorthanded today, so.
Any volunteers? Mr.
Are you
Rosen-
all able to see the motion on your screens?
I cannot see the motion.
Oh, there
Okay,
we go.
bear with
I,
me.
you know what, I'm seeing it. Mr. Chairman, I can make a motion here.
Good, good, good. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to forward a recommendation to the city council to consider an amendment to the authorized special permit use authorized under ordinance number 1463 and approve the petition for site plan, community design and concept, stormwater management plan reviews to authorize the changes as illustrated in the permit plans as presented on June 6th, 2022, and authorize staff to work with the petitioner to develop a schedule for improvements in which all work is phased and completed within 18 months following opening, as presented before the commission and noted in the memorandum for the Department of Planning and Community Development dated July 1st, 2022, subject to any staff conditions noted therein. These attached under the staff report.
Motion's been made, but Carlos, I got a question. Should we add that little asterisk that we talked about? to
Yeah,
the motion?
I'll note if it's okay for the motion maker to consider authorizing the petitioner to request an extension to the amended schedule that we just discussed today. That would allow the commission to consider a 3 to 6 months extension on any of the go dates.
Yes to the asterisk.
Okay, motion's been made by Mr. Rosenberg. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And seconded by Tim Spiegelglass. Carlos, will you please call the vote?
Bear with me 1 second. Commissioner Rosenberg,
Approved.
Commissioner Spiegelglass,
Approve.
Commissioner Rich,
Approved.
Commissioner Jurgel,
Approved.
and the motion passes unanimously 4-0. This item will be forwarded to the city council at its first meeting in August, and I believe that is August 9th.
Good, thank you. Thank you for all your discussions and patience. I think it worked out well. So good, good. Okay. Good, good. So let's move on to the next item. We're gonna go on to new business, item 6. And item A is 9328 Kenneth Place, a site plan review regarding a variance from a stream buffer. Petitioner is Jason Murray, property owner is Jason Murray. No, not yet. Oh, not yet. Hang in there. We appreciate enthusiasm. Got to give a little chance for Carlos to
Yeah,
catch
I'm
up.
trying to.
I'm a little quick on the draw. Sorry to rush you, Carlos.
No, you're okay. Okay, just want to verify that commission members can see the new slide put up for title 9328 Kenneth Place. That's visible.
Seeing some heads nod. so
Yep,
good, good.
okay.
Very good.
All right.
Not
Sure.
yet on my end.
Chairman, we received a petition for the placement of a, I believe the 48-inch up to 52 fence on the property. Address is 9328 Kenneth Place. This fence meets all the requirements of Chapter 435, which is our fencing regulations. It was submitted directly for a permit, but upon its review, one of the things that we realized right away is that this was a new house at the end of Kenneth Place, which is just south of Olive a little west of the Olive Crossing commercial development. And that in this lot is bisected by a creek that's created by a stormwater inlet that runs from Llewellyn's eastern boundaries all the way to the McDonald's at Gilman and Olive. So there's quite a bit of volume of stormwater that goes through there. This creek, whether natural or not, primarily generates its water from this underground stormwater pipe that releases there, and then goes all the way down to Price Road, and then is now being converted into an underground pipe. But because this area where the water is going is open, our code considers it a stream, and all streams in the city of Olivet are protected by the stream buffer ordinance under chapter 420. And what that does is that the original ordinance says that along the high banks of any identified stream, and those streams being identified by the U.S. Geological Service, that you have to provide a 25-foot undisturbed natural buffer. And then in addition to that, a 25-foot setback. So virtually from 50 feet from the high water mark of the stream, the goal of the ordinance is to limit disturbances within natural creek areas for a couple of purposes. One is, of course, the aesthetics, but secondly is also to allow the purification and the reduction and to slow the velocity of stormwater as it goes into a creek. So it serves multiple purposes in there. However, and this ordinance was a template put together by the Metropolitan Sewer District and was applied to, I believe there's about 65 communities within the MSD jurisdiction. And it was everybody kind of adopted uniformly. We found out that in Olivet being a more urban than suburban area, that application impacted a lot of residential properties inadvertently. And so we went back and reassessed what the goal of the stream buffer ordinance would be and what would be equitable within the city of Olivet to ensure that the same principles and objectives of the MSD ordinance would be followed through. And what we did is we amended the code to note that if the identified stream from the USGS service is not a natural stream, if it's been altered from its natural state, that we would remove one of those 25-foot, whether it's the buffer or the setback, and allow certain improvements within that area, if and only if in return the property owner can provide landscape or what we call best management practices, BMP improvements, to help slow down water, filter that water, and improve the conditions of the creek from eroding within its boundaries and within other sites itself. And that was adopted last year. We received a permit for construction of a home at 9328 back in February 2021. They qualified for the request, as we call it, a waiver. And in lieu of the additional setback, they agreed to do certain improvements within the first 25 feet from the ordinary high water mark. And they have quite an extensive landscaping that is in place. So if you look at this slide of the existing of the home when it's proposed, this red kind of represented the undisturbed area, the green represented the setback area, and then this would be all that would be buildable on that lot within that in there. And it was the existing home encroached in various areas in there. So they did receive a waiver and were allowed to build, instead of right here at this green line, if everybody can see, up to this red line here. And the new home fully is in place and compliant with the necessary setbacks. And then in this 25-foot area, they provided their stormwater detention system and did some extensive landscaping and rain garden here in that back area. And then here is the creek itself outside of the shaded areas. And then there's a little bridge crossing. And it's a very deep lot that then continues to run all the way to the backside of Villa Park, which is off of Villa Drive in there. So over half their property is bisected by that creek. Again, a waiver was granted for the development of a new home, subject to those improvements along within that 25-foot distance from the ordinary high water mark, and those are all in place. So when the petitioner came in, he was applying for a fence enclosure for security reasons. It wasn't a privacy fence. I'll stress that there is some solid, but was cognizant that they were abutting a stream, and they came in and applied. I think it's a 52-inch tall fence. I'll have to verify that. So 54. So it's below the height standards of the maximum height standard. So in there, and it was going to be a full privacy fence, pretty much up to those green areas, and then it was going to convert into, I call it an ornamental fence, but it is an open iron rail fence that they would be placing. And I think you have copies of that in your packets in there. So that fence, and again, now I'm flipping the lot. So the Kenneth Place is up here, and the stream is down here. The yellow area that you see here represents the 25-foot landscape improvements that were provided for the property, and their fence would run along the property line, again, compliant with code, and then at a certain segment would convert into this open fence and then come across here and go around there. Again, the fence itself complies with the city's fencing regulations. It's here because the commission has the authority to waive certain improvements in that first 25 feet if they are not hard surface areas. The question before the commission would be, is a fence, which is more a three-dimensional as opposed to being broad, within the spirit of the code, and would that be authorized to be placed into that setback area? We, in terms of the staff review, again, see that the intent of the fence isn't to restrict the stormwater. The intent of the fence is not to impede the flow of the stormwater or inadvertently impact the filtration that area plays. But it is in that, and it's unfortunate. I think it's a repercussion of the ordinance and the new construction within itself. But talking with the petitioner, thought it would be worthwhile bringing this to the commission's review. They can go over some of the specifics and more of why they're requesting that fence area. There is, for the most part, their usable back area that they can surface ends at this deck here at the 25-foot line. The rest, again, is by the code is supposed to be maintained as undisturbed or green. Again, for the purposes of slowing the velocity of stormwater and improving the water, the quality of water as it approaches into the stream. Be glad to answer any specific questions. This is a unique one. Again, there's not many lots in all of that are impacted like these on Kenneth and there, but there are few and far between. And now note, we are cognizant that if you go on Price Road from 170 to Price Road, for the most part, all the way to the Hillendale subdivision, we have another creek, which is that channel, the concrete channel, and all those properties have chain link fences along there. We know they're non-compliant. They were there before the ordinance was adopted, of course.
But that's also
A more significant drop too.
Yeah.
So that's why this is before the commission to see if they would consider the fence to be part of the BMP plans that were adopted for the new home. I'd be glad to answer any questions, and I'm not the property owners here.
I don't have any questions. Does anybody else on the commission have any questions for Carlos? Seeing none, so if we can bring on the petitioner, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Please
so,
State your
yeah,
name and
name
address
is-
for the record. That'd be great.
Sure.
Thank you.
sure, Jason Murray, I'm at 9328 Kenneth Place. And just first of all, really want to say thank you all for taking the time to do this. Really appreciate it. And also want to thank Mr. Trejo for being so kind and receptive and responsive to all this. Yeah, and just to clarify, the fencing material, initially when we submitted our request, we were thinking about doing privacy fence on the side, a 6-foot privacy fence. And then a 54-inch, that black aluminum across the back, primarily to preserve that view, that kind of feel of open spaces, the spirit of the ordinance. You know, I looked at it and saw that was kind of the goal. And talking with Mr. Trejo, we thought it just made more sense to make sure we fully comply with everything, to do the 54-inch, 4.5-foot high black aluminum all the way around, so that there's, you know, again, that complete undisturbed view. We want to make sure we make all our neighbors happy and everything like that. And so, for what it's worth, I've spoken with several of my neighbors, not all of them. I actually don't know all of my neighbors yet, having just moved in. Some of them may be here. And if so, that's great. But the ones I've talked to have all said that they have no concerns with the fence in the yard. Apparently the previous owner of the house had a fence and it wasn't ever impacted by the water or anything like that. But anyway, that's it. Happy to answer any questions anybody has.
I read your email, I believe, and I think there was also kind of a safety issue, right?
Well, yeah, and Carlos mentioned that. I think part of it was of safety, I guess. It actually really isn't the primary goal, to be frank. I mean, we feel really safe and secure where we live and all of that.
No, I mean for the kids.
I was going to say the primary reason is for our son. Yeah, he's 3 years old, and we just want to make sure, given that as Carlos really nicely laid out, the creek cuts through the middle of our property. We just want to make sure he can go out and play in the yard safely. And we've got a couple dogs. It'd be nice to be able to have this place to let them out.
Yeah, that makes sense. I get that. Does any commission member have any questions or comments for the petitioner? Any commission members have any items they want to discuss? I personally have no issues with it. I think it's fine, and I think it's in the spirit. I think the posts are going to be minimal disturbance, and if anything, the areas on the other side of the fence that are run adjacent to it, that's going to be less traffic in it, so if anything, that helps support the slope and everything like that without disturbing it. So I think it might be easier to maintain your best management practices, in that regard. So I'm not sure if any other commission members feel the same way, or if you have any other thoughts.
I agree.
Very good. So seeing no other discussion, Carlos, well, is there anybody in the audience that would like to address or speak to this? Seeing none, Carlos, do we have anybody on via Zoom?
If anybody online would like to speak in regards to this petition item, if you can just show your hands and I'll bring you over. Oh, Chairman.
Okay, good. Oh, there's a suggested motion on the screen. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion here. I got it right here.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the petition for site plan review to authorize a fence variation at 9328 Kenneth Place to allow the construction of a fence as noted in the plans before the commission and as presented in the memorandum from the Department of Planning and Community Development dated July 21st, 2022, subject to any staff conditions noted therein.
It's been made by Commissioner Rosenberg. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And seconded by Tim Spiegelglass. Carlos, you please call the vote.
Commissioner Rosenberg,
Approved.
Commissioner Spiegelglass,
Approve.
Commissioner Rich,
Approved.
Chairman Drogel.
Approved.
The motion passes unanimously 4-0. The next step is the petitioner has applied and there still has to go through the review queue, and we'll let you know once the permit's ready. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
sir, for coming. And welcome to all of them. Thank you. Yeah, good. Okay, so we'll move on to other business, item 7, and item A is cannabis and Olivet's zoning regulations. Carlos?
Okay, Chairman, at the second meeting of June of the City Council, we had a public hearing regarding the text amendment to the LID district, which required medical cannabis cultivation facilities petition for a special permit in order to be authorized in the LID district. And the commission did approve the ordinance as forwarded. But there were some requests, there were requests from the council for the commission to look at the city's cannabis or medical marijuana regulations and to provide some broader regulations in place. So today I just wanted to show the motion that was made before the council. So the commission is aware and familiar with that, and then kind of talk about the process and the schedule. And then I think we have several residents here that would like to speak before the commission as they start considering this. But let's talk about the process first. The council has the authority to forward to the commission requests to prepare and draft regulations regarding land use controls. This is one in terms, this is an identified use. The commission would like the city council would like the commission to further the city's regulations and controls over cannabis type facilities in there, and that's within their purview. So once the council directs the commission to do that, the commission has 180 days to draft and forward a recommendation to the council. If it fails to do so, the council can adopt the regulations themselves. And in this case, and I don't see that we would be taking that full length. There was quite a bit of information that's been provided both to this commission and to the council. We want to make sure that it's accessible and accessed by all the commission members for their consideration. I urge you to take a look at some of the council recordings on YouTube, and I'll provide a brief one regarding the motion in there, because there's a lot of good information that has been circulated in regards to cannabis type of facilities. In addition to that, our next meeting will be August 4th. This item will be on the agenda for discussion. We'll have the city attorney in attendance to kind of talk to the commission on that. And we've also reached out to Clean Air Olivet, which is one of the organizations that had spoke before the council, and they prepared a lot of the draft data that you've seen both at the commission meetings and circulated at the council level in there. We'll have to take a look at the schedule. We do have other items and things like that, but we can kind of dedicate whether it's a 30-45 minute time frame to have a pretty good discussion on August 4th, and then determine if we need another or start drafting the regulations. If we need more time, the next meeting would be August 18th. In there, and that's still well within the time frame of the commission. But I know that there was some concern that the goal that is to try to expedite the regulations, put drafting the ordinance together and getting that forwarded to the council before any additional permits or requests are received, and puts us in a situation where we're trying to enforce something similar to what we had at the recently in the industrial park. So I'm gonna kind of see if this works for all the commission members. Bear with me, because I know I'm gonna have to switch over on the screens for those that are watching virtually. So here we go.
Everybody see the YouTube?
Not yet.
Not
I
yet,
gotta
okay.
stop this share. And I gotta reshare it. Bear with me on the online. Right, I believe everybody should have the YouTube screen on their monitors or phones. And I'm crossing my fingers that the audio works well. And if not, the motion, you can find, the city has a YouTube channel. All the meeting recordings are placed there by the date of the meeting. And then this specific motion was done at 2:33:18. And I can send the email link along with the time, so it will be up to you if you want to listen to the whole meeting or just a component of the meeting. I'm just here to provide you what the motion that was forwarded to the council. 1 second, or was considered by the council.
Close the public hearing and.
Trying. Can everybody hear?
Okay, Madam Mayor, to make the motion to approve Bill 2979 and send the item back to PCDC and work with the city attorney to add criteria such as distance from other entities, odor control, waste disposal, hours of operation, and public notice. The city attorney to work with PCDC on code review and necessary revisions concerning other medical marijuana uses such as manufacturing, testing, and dispensary.
Is there a second?
Just want to say a few things on, first on personal opinion versus elected responsibility. A council person's oath of office require that they defend the Missouri Constitution. Medical marijuana has a unique place in that respect, being called out in the Constitution specifically. Consequently, the council could not support an ordinance that would result in an effective ban of medical marijuana facilities in the city. That is what we believe is our elected responsibility, regardless of our personal opinions. See that we are required to encourage them in any way, have we? We look forward to an ordinance that provides additional protections as residents have requested, but within the legal framework in which the city must operate. Now on to PCDC council process. Missouri statute provides the responsibility for land use restrictions, also known as the zoning code. The city's Planning and Zoning Commission and its city council. The Planning and Zoning Commission, in our case, PCDC, is responsible for drafting and amending land use restrictions, while a city council is responsible for final approval of such restrictions. The separation of duties is vital to ensuring thoughtful and balanced land use regulations by providing two independent reviews and approval. Also asks that residents respect the process, just as importantly, continue to participate in it. And I just want to thank the residents who have participated in the public hearing process by sharing your time and expertise.
Councilmember Knox.
Yes.
Councilmember. Chairman Pro Tem Carl.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick on you. You offered to give us something again. You betcha. I want it. I'm confused. Last time you told me the lawyer was your lawyer. Katie Pashon today said, I feel that the city has been communicating, and my comment I'm about to make will reflect that. I've been very happy with the staff and the involvement that you, CAO, have had with the city. So if there's any legal clarification of the letter we got that is their lawyer needs legal clarification, then our lawyer needs to be talking with your lawyer so you all understand. So everybody understands, not just you, because I'm legally. We all understand legally, what can we really legally do, okay? With regards to the CA whoever T thing, Seattle. Okay, Seattle, Colorado. Right now, I don't know if that's looking very well. Okay? So I would like you to share that measurement. I'm not sure, did you measure 750 feet or 1,000 feet? Have that and you've offered to share it back with the city. I'd like for the city to have it if you don't mind. Madam Mayor, I have just a couple of remarks before I give my vote. This process has purpose. Doing nothing is not the answer tonight. Although we doesn't always represent me, okay? But we should have your participation and the discussion. This is what makes a community strong. I recognize Ms. Sodak, Mr. Martin, Mr. Trejo, and the mayor. Thank them for their participation with members and the leadership of CAO, the members and leadership. I'm not quite sure who's a member and who's a leader, because sometimes someone says they're a member and they're not a leader. I want to make sure that council will give directive to PCDC to develop more detailed regulations that will take into consideration residents' concerns and meet legally enforceable requirements. It starts with passing Bill 2979 and sending this back to PCDC to develop more detailed regulations. Because of that, I will be voting yes. So my vote is yes.
Motion passed by action of the Olivet City Council. Bill number 2979 becomes ordinance number 2750.
With the adoption of that ordinance, effectively, the motions that were done by Chairman Pro Tem Carl and those noted by our council liaison kind of reference to what they were requesting of the commission to prepare and to take a look at. So I'll be glad to answer any specific questions. I think we kind of talked about the schedule. I do know Clean Air, all of that was active in this process, and we'd like them to engage and be given an opportunity to provide information to the commission. It may have, because of the different activities and things that go in, that we'd have to split it in maybe two meetings or so, but to coordinate some type of schedule in there. I know August 5th, I do have one petition that we just kind of deferred earlier in there. For the most part of those things are resolved from a staff perspective. That was considered for consent. And then we have our other items that we're working on in there. So I think it's safe to say that the commission probably could allocate 30-45 minutes just in discussion about this item on the 4th. As we get to the 18th, that might be cut. I know we got 2 new home permits that were received for the August 18th meeting. Those still have to be reviewed and determined if they qualify. If the petitions met all the conditions for it being forwarded to the commission. And at this point, every once in a while, we get some minor items like a fence or a shed that we try to expedite in the process. Sometimes they take longer than what we anticipate too. But on the meeting on the 18th, which is generally more of our agenda item type of meetings, the time allotment may be a little bit less. The first meeting in September, again, we may have an opportunity to provide more time if the discussions continue, and then we'll codify an ordinance, bring it to the commission, and have it prepared for action.
Have there been any recent documents that have been shared with the council that should go to the rest of the commission members? That we don't have?
I'm not aware of any more recent since the public hearing. Now, there may have been in there. I know their attorney had some discussions with the city's attorney.
Are you asking me a question here? Or are you just making that comment?
Hold on. Give us a second, actually, because that way we'll get to public comments and stuff. And what was your question?
Well, if we can get, I'm sorry, I do need individuals to speak in the microphone.
Yes.
I don't mind the casual aspect, but you do have to go up to the microphone.
Well, okay, how about this? As soon as we get to public comments, we'll go and we'll verify what we have, what we don't have. Let's kind of keep going with some further discussion, kind of lay out the groundwork, just so we're working and moving in a unified area. Okay.
Up to date, I think the full packet that was provided to the commission initially, and then also went to the council that had the kind of like a slide presentation, some additional summary information that was in the report. In there, the one item that was introduced, I think at the council meeting in June was a letter requested from an attorney representing Clean Air Olivet. I don't think that's been provided to Mr. Tomatson. I don't believe that letter that was prepared by an attorney has been provided to the commission as of date.
Okay.
And that would be included in we will share that information with you. And that's not a problem. I just haven't given it to them.
Okay, very good. Does any commission members have any questions for Carlos at this time? Okay, good. Carlos, the only question is, can you, whatever information that's available, can you resend that to the commission member?
Yes, we will.
So we have a chance to review it before we start kind of discussing it. That would be helpful.
Sure.
Okay, good.
And I'd be glad to also to work with representatives CAO to kind of list like the items I have and then make sure that I have the most recent up-to-date items in there, and then the packet can be sent to you on Monday.
That'd be
PDF.
fantastic. That'd be great. Okay, good. So I think we'll open it up for, unless there's any more discussion, we can open it up for some public comments. I imagine we have some. You can walk up and just make sure you state your name and address for the record. That'd be great.
Raphael Tomatson, 809 Newcastle Drive. I just wanted to, first of all, I'm not gonna be able to make the next meeting. I'll try to zoom in if that's possible. So I wanted to come in person and kind of introduce myself. I was the person who coordinated with the lawyer. I'll just kind of tell the backstory on that and what we've done. After the initial special permit request and the city council meeting after that, I thought it was important that I know, and maybe many of the citizens know, kind of what the rules are, try to understand these things. So I took a collection of money, about 70 plus households in Olivet contributed close to $3,000 for an attorney. We asked them kind of what their opinion was. We asked them what they could do. And eventually we drafted a proposed text amendment that I think will, if it's not in your packet, will hopefully get passed along to you. In that process, two council member Waldron asked our lawyer to, I say our lawyer, it shouldn't be our lawyer. The contract is actually between me and the attorney, and I was liable for all the money and that stuff. So my lawyer to write a letter to the city attorney, kind of explaining the logic of that. Hopefully that can get passed on. I will say we ran, after that letter, we basically ran out of money, and that is the end of that relationship. I don't have the lawyer anymore. And it was not done as any council. Clean Air Olivet, I think, like the work of that, I went back and forth and kind of showed Clean Air Olivet what we're doing. And I think this is a consensus between Clean Air Olivet and what we would like to see. I want to just emphasize that we try to make sure it's legally defensible. One requirement that is very sad to me, but seemed to come both from the city's lawyer and from our lawyer, was that there had to be certain locations in Olivet that were eligible for these plants. And I want to assure you that we have done the work to make sure that was there. And another document that hopefully will get passed along is for different distance thresholds. We're proposing 750 feet between a residence and a marijuana processing facility. But we have, how many plots would apply if it's 750 feet. I also gave what if you make that 600 feet or 500 feet. I don't memorize the numbers, but there'll be,
Great. Be good. If it's in the documents, we'll be.
it's in the document. So
That'd be great.
we're trying to do that. And then for odor mitigation, which I think is really important, we have a number of scientists who probably will discuss either today or, but mostly in the later sessions, the existence of technologies that kind of work on these odor mitigations. And mostly, I just want to say, we really want to work in a collaborative way with PCDC, with the council, with everyone. And that's all I wanted to say.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hi, Stephanie Todd, 7 Heather Hill Lane. And I thought maybe, so I just wanted to ask the PCDC to review the proposed ordinances that Clean Air provided, and it sounds like you haven't seen those yet. I guess, I don't know if they're in the.
That's what we're talking about. That's
Yeah.
what we're introducing to them today, that we're going to start going through that.
Okay, so if you could use those proposed ordinances to either, then just review those and use those as the proposal to the city council or similar ordinances. And because the special permit isn't enough to protect the citizens of Olivet from the undesirable effects from the cannabis facilities, because it doesn't give any requirements. There's nothing specific in it. And so that we want these specifics documented in ordinances, and we also want to include manufacturing and testing. And this isn't in the package yet that I can send Carlos. I put together like a real short little view graph of the ordinances from the surrounding cities, U-City, Creve Coeur, Town and Country. They all have various versions of no odor. So other cities have adopted very, similar ordinances. So they're out there. I'd also like to say that it was thrown out at one point that, oh, we don't need these because we're covered because we have a nuisance ordinance. And I want to say that, a nuisance ordinance it's after the fact. I think we need to be proactive on that. And I called St. Louis County Air Pollution Office, and they said that that we're well within our rights to make stricter requirements than the county on different air pollution and air quality. And he said that once a facility is up and operating, it's almost impossible to go back and resolve any issues. So that again, that's why we need these ordinances documented now. And he also added, that a nuisance law is essentially unenforceable. I mean, what's a nuisance? Who's it a nuisance to? I mean, so again, we're really asking you to look at these proposed ordinances that we've submitted. And, if you have any questions about them, like Ralph said, we're here. We understand the technology exists to do all this. So,
Thank you.
okay.
Very good.
Hello, I'm Kate Hellman, 800 North Price. I just wanted to address a couple of the questions that came up from what Missy had to say at the last council meeting. So the folks that you see here, well, people on Zoom can't see them, but the people behind me and myself, we're all leaders within the Clean Air Olivet group. So we have a leadership team of about 10 people. But members of the group, we have 97 members in the group. So just to clarify that. And the leaders in the group, it's all very fluid. Some folks focus on the science piece. Some folks have focused on the legal piece. I have kind of been the overarching organizer. So we all have kind of had different roles and have taken on different parts of this. That said, I'm very grateful that the PCDC is taking this up. I'm very grateful to Carlos for the work that he has done in communicating with us and helping make us aware of the process. And just from this meeting and other PCDC meetings that I've sat in, it's clear that you guys pay very close attention to detail. And that's great. You know, the detail that we saw for tonight's, the first project with the convenience store, you know, and so we hope that and expect that really that same level of detail is going to be applied to looking at potential zoning and regulations for this industry. And we just really appreciate the council's recognition of the public input and how strong a sizable amount of the public feels about this issue, and recognize that that strong public input and feedback warrants a very thoughtful and thorough response. So we look forward to working with you. Hope that we can be in conversation in some ways, even outside of the meetings, if there are questions that come up, in whatever ways feel like they're most appropriate and conducive to furthering understanding. And then finally, I just had a question. There was a question at the last council, not the last council meeting, the council meeting back in June that was shown on YouTube. My understanding was that Olivet does not really have a nuisance code that relates to odors. And I looked back at section 200 of the nuisance code, and the only thing that I could find in there that related to odors was specific to privies and private vaults. So I was just curious, Carlos, if there's another section of the nuisance code that addresses odors specifically. If I have missed something, I'd
No,
love the
you haven't.
guidance.
No, you haven't under that. I believe it's chapter 220. And there, the only references to odors is to sanitary type of sewer items in there. That first paragraph of the introduction of what is a nuisance is pretty broad, and that's probably the only segment that it would fall under.
Okay.
So that was one, you know, in my opinion, one of the weaknesses of the code and holistically is, you know, that nuisance doesn't have any references to odor as it does to some of the other items that are in there. But when you look at those, they're pretty well defined. They're traditional items. A lot of those nuisance codes don't deviate from one another in there. And yeah, and there
Noise, like noise, as far as nuisance noise, that's under.
it's a
different-
peace disturbance and it falls under a different segment. But there, again, that first paragraph that introduces what is a nuisance is so broad that, you know, we've had people that because they find another individual annoying, that it falls under the nuisance code, and that they expect us to, you know, to question us of why we haven't done something. And again, it has to be a more defined act. So those that are noted, I mean, they're pretty specific. Again, those previes, deteriorated house, and it's been about 3 or 4 sentences of what is a deteriorated house, and it doesn't give us much wiggle room in there. The height of the weeds.
I recognize odor is hard to
And
measure.
yeah, and it may be
Yeah.
whether it's because of that or so. And then on the noise stuff, it falls under a different segment of the code, and it does use a decibel sound only for the playing of music, not necessarily the equipment, if I understand.
We did, just so you know, we did have some discussions amongst commission members to look into the nuisance odor code. But we wanted to address this aspect first.
Right, right. And I
Just so we
remember
didn't
that
get
from
bogged
the-
down in the weeds trying to deal with, other manufacturing area,
Right.
things like that. So we
Right.
wanted to stay focused.
Exactly. There was something else that I was gonna say and now it has left my mind. So it will
We
wait
got
for,
another meeting.
it will wait for another time.
Well, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? No?
I do have two, Ms. Miller or Ms. Ramanuja, if you want to speak, if you can show your hands. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
And after this gentleman speaks, Ms. Ramanuja, I'll bring you over, but hold on 1 second.
Okay, thank you all the members for your time again. Yeah, I'm Sinyu New, 8933 Iroquois, just close to the corner. Yeah, I want to say, I'm a PhD of plant science focused on the metabolites, use EPLC, GC to quantify that. I want to see, I look up many papers for the marijuana so far, not too much of publication about that. We know terpenoid and thiol at high concentration is toxic, but at a low concentration and longer time exposure, no exactly publish the paper.
Right.
Yes,
No public information, or
Ye-
no public data.
sure. But from the chemistry knowledge or our common sense, we know if long time we are in a low concentration of some compound, still not good for our health. I know I live there, that area. Some of the house just between the distance you and me, the yard to the buildings. So I just want to please you to help us. First, we need a distance. Yes. Second, we don't need order. Yeah, we need a distance. We don't need order. Okay, thank you.
Right, thank you.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
I do have one online, 1 second. Ms. Ramanuja, I'm going to transfer you over as a panelist, so bear with me 1 second. Okay, Ms. Ram, there you go. We can hear you. There you go.
Oh, okay. Hi, yeah, thanks, guys. I think, I want to keep this as short as possible, but ultimately, we need to consider the message that, sorry?
If you don't mind, just state your name and address for the. record.
Yes, I apologize. My name is Rekha Ramanuja. I'm at 9700 Fairgreen in Olivet. I'm a practicing child and adolescent psychiatrist here in the community, and I see kids from all over St. Louis County. I have worked in adolescent substance abuse as well. And like I said, I want to keep this short. I think we just need to consider, the message that this ultimately sends our kids as far as having a dispensary here, there, everywhere. I see the billboards, get your free medical card now. And I can tell you that the majority of the 18-year-olds that have their quote unquote medical card right now, it's not for a medical reason. And I can also guarantee you that the vast majority that's sold at dispensaries is also not for medical reasons. Medical reasons would include cancer, seizures. There's many legitimate medical reasons, but the fact is once weekly use up until the age of 25 can actually decrease your IQ. And it's been shown in geocaching studies that teens that live within the vicinity, I don't know if it's 1,000 feet, I would have to look at my data again, or 1 mile, 5 miles, teens that live within a vicinity of a dispensary are much more likely to use. And a lot of the studies I looked at even looked at increased use amongst 8th graders within the vicinity of these dispensaries. So as a child and adolescent psychiatrist, as a parent myself, I'm not against real uses of medical marijuana. But I think that right now it's just not regulated enough to where we can keep it out of the hands of our kids.
Thank you for the comment. Appreciate it.
Ms. Miller? I think
Okay, good.
there's
Any-
no other comments.
Good. Any commission members have any further discussion on this? Seeing none, I think Carlos, if you can, like you said, send us those documents. If everybody who's online can, get a chance to review that ahead of time, it'll help make for a more productive meeting and maybe help it move along faster to the next meeting. So appreciate it. And if anybody has any questions or comments, either email Carlos or myself or anything like that, so we can kind of help move this along. So good. Okay. That being said, I think we'll move on to the next item, which is 7B, text amendment, PA Public Activity District and Child Care Center.
Chairman, given the time and then being that we just made that quorum, if you'd like to defer the other items.
That'd be great. If it's not a pressing issue, I think that makes sense. I'd like to be respectful for,
I
especially
appreciate
the
every,
people we had to corral in at the last minute, so. All right, good. So meeting minutes, I don't believe I see
Again,
any meeting minutes, so I think we're on to reports.
so Chairman, outside of that, tomorrow is the opening day for Firestone. They're having a ribbon cutting arrangement. We're still working with them for the completion of the park area, the outdoor area there at the intersection. They will put a flagpole as part of the requirement, and then they need to coordinate with Olivet on Bloom in terms of defining the space area for the annual plantings that they'll be in charge of in there. Outside of that, unless there's any specific questions on any of the developments, things are going. The big thing are supply chain delays. They just seem to be going everywhere, residential, commercial, especially electrical, now windows and there or steel. It's amazing. It's interesting times. They say it's getting a little bit better, but
Time will tell.
Yeah.
Time will tell. All right, Missy, do you have your report? Missy, we
Missy,
can't
you're-
hear you, so.
your mic's on, Missy, but it's not giving any. Are you plugged in? There you
Yeah.
go. There you
Am
go.
I in?
Yes.
There you go. Yeah, okay, all right. I don't really have anything special to report. Carlos identified the ribbon cutting ceremony that will be at tomorrow at 11 o'clock. August 31st is Olivet Night Out. And our communications directors blasted some of that out. If you or your subdivision are interested, please get in touch with the city. And council will be going around August 31st. That's all I really have to report. I appreciate y'all. Thank you very much.
Very good. All right. If there's any other discussions, if not, I'd say we're gonna adjourn this meeting at 9:14. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you all. All right. Thanks again, Jody, Tim, and Dan.
Sure.